our world here, and welcome again. We're back on the job site, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on in there, but we have to do part two of our estimator today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that and give you some time right here in class to finish the assignment for today. And then second part of the class, we're going to be looking at actually doing some task work and trying to move this project forward, because I literally have a deadline. This thing needs to be all done, wrapped up, totally functional by next Friday, Monday at the latest. Once we get past here and we get everything purchased, man, game on, and we're going to start cooking through this thing. So if you haven't already, go ahead and open up Google Classroom. Make sure your assignment is open. Do not start it, however, until I'm able to explain what needs to be done. And then I'm going to give you 10 or 15 minutes in class here to get her done. And so we will get taken care of that in just a little bit. So here's the game plan for today, the outline. And why I'm saying this is estimator part two is we had some confusion in the first task. I was asking you to do a description and give me your time estimate. Well, some did, some didn't. Some of the descriptions were missing some important detail. Therefore, you could not estimate the time accurately. So we're going to go timeout. Part two is I'm going to give you the full description that I have presented to the client, and then you guys are going to do time estimating based on what we learned beforehand. So I'm going to teach you some of the techniques and thought process that we use to create that estimate, and then I'm going to let you guys use that new knowledge and crank it out so you can complete it online. Once we get that done, we're going to part two, which is we're going to look at the work order for this job, which is on the clipboard at the job site, and I am already up and running and tracking time, but I want to review that with you guys as well. The majority of you have worked in the shop, especially with our bigger projects like the kitchen wall build and so forth, and you know basically what a work order is. So we'll refresh it a little bit. We'll get Carson, in the loop, and then we'll go to business on knocking out some of those tasks. Okay. And last but not least, of course, at the end of class, I'll make sure I get your assignments turned in so the points are there. We got 12 points available in today's class, and then I'll dismiss you guys as we go. Bada bang, we're in good shape. All right, so here's what's happening, you guys. I'd like you all to make sure that you can see the screen and be able to read some of those descriptions, because I'm going to call you guys out one at a time and help me kind of explain what's going on. But I'm going to have you guys read out loud to the class the different tasks, and then we'll talk about it to make sure we understand what's going on. So here we go. Brandon, are you out there? Awesome. Okay, buddy, can you please read for me task number one? Let's just start there, right there at the top. Excellent. Okay, so here's a great example of a whole lot of detail that we didn't necessarily get when we were first doing the walkthrough, but as the client kept giving me information, I had to keep adding it into the scope of work description. Because if you remember, the scope of work description we're using becomes part of the legal contract. It says if I sign off on it as a contractor and the client signs off, this is what she or he is willing to pay me, and that is what I'm legally responsible for doing. Therefore, the more detail we can put into our scope of work, the better off we are as we're moving forward, because decisions have been made, people know what they need to do, and as we're going to find out, there is a lot of materials and products that the client is actually going to be purchasing and providing. That is a term that we use and makes it really clear. Is the contractor buying it or is the client buying it? Okay, super important. Okay, Brandon, let's just back up a little bit now that we kind of understand what's going on, and let's talk about how many different things need to happen in this single task. Because what you guys are going to do is you're going to estimate how many hours it's going to take for me to do the work for each one of these little tasks. So we're going to go through the critical thinking exercise. So basically, I'm just going to kind of talk out loud and think through how it's going to take and how much labor time it's going to take. So Brandon, coming back to it, when it says prepare, so we're talking about painting stuff. So do you know anything about painting an interior room at all? I wasn't sure. Okay, cool. So just with what you have, before you actually start putting paint on the wall, what kind of things do you have to do to prepare the room to get it done? Yeah, excellent. So we're putting protection down on the floor so we don't slop paint. We're taping off things so we don't get paint on, like doors or handles or whatever else might be on the wall. Excellent. In this case, we also had to remove the medicine cabinet, the light fixture, all of the light plate covers. You can see it right back there in the picture. That's a light switch. It's a two-way light switch, two switches. And so you take the plate cover off. Down below was where the toilet TP roll was. So we pull that out so we don't get paint on it. So when we prepare a place, prepare a room to be painted, there's some time involved, okay? Maybe it's gonna take me 45 minutes to pull everything down, scrape it. Brandon, do you think we need to maybe wipe down the walls and get some of the dirt and grime off of it before we put new paint on? Okay, excellent. And I'm looking for the product, but here it is right here. We're going to be using this product right here, which is called TSP, and it is a cleaner wall prep type chemistry that you put into, in our case, a cool little spray bottle. And I'm going to go the walls and the ceilings and anything else that we're going to be painting, spray it on, wipe it down with a terry cloth towel. That is going to clean and prepare for priming the wall. Okay, so do you know what that term means, Brandon? What does primer mean, or primer paint? And it's okay if you don't know. I'm just using you and we're just having a conversation, man. So did you even know there was such a thing as primer paint? Okay, so no, we don't, which is super interesting because uh, you just either say, oh, we just slapped some paint on the wall. Well, in reality, there's most of the time two steps before you get to the final color you want. First step is it's called a primer, and it's a different type of paint, has a different chemistry. It has more bonding chemistry so that it sticks to whatever the wall surface is a little bit better. It is certainly something we use when we've got a dark wall color, so that teal color, that's pretty hard to cover over the top, just to let y'all know. If it was a white or a cream, no big deal. We could go with whatever color we wanted over the top. But the minute I step into a space that has a dark wall color, I immediately click in my head, ooh, this is gonna be a prepare. We're gonna have to prime it at least with one coat, and then we're gonna have to put our final color on top of that. And so I'm running in my head, ooh, okay, 45 minutes to prep it, and then I'm gonna put the first coat of primer on, and let's say that takes me an hour, and then I gotta put a second coat on, there's another hour. So I've got an hour and 45 minutes in total, excuse me, 2 hours and 45 minutes in total, just off the top of my head in regards to how long it's gonna take to accomplish work order step number one, okay? So that's what I want you guys to start thinking about as you're reading through these descriptions, is trying to do the critical thinking, break it down into the different things we have to do, and then add an amount of time to each one of those parts, add them up, there's your estimate, you're good to go. All right, so that's what estimators do all day long, keeping track of the details, making sure everything is included in these descriptions. That's part of what we're doing. Now, the cool thing is here on the second half of description number one, Brandon said, it says, client to provide. Okay, so that means the client went to the hardware store, bought the paint that I recommended, got it in the color that they wanted. So she chose the color, she chose the paint type. and she bought it and gave it to me. So right now, step number one, the second half, the client has totally done everything she was supposed to do, and that is in fact the paint swatch that's on the wall. So yesterday I wanted to test this product. I've personally not painted with that brand before, so she came and brought it. That's part of my job as the home improvement technician here, is to see if it's going to work. So my job, I put some tests on, it dried back, it looks really good, which I'm totally excited because I think we can do it in a 2-coat process, but I won't have to do a separate primer plus the top coat. Here's the good hint. They now make product where they combine those two together and you get kind of a 2-in-1, right? You get a primer plus a top coat. So in the description that you're seeing, a paint plus primer product means they can buy 1 can of paint and I can use it for the priming step and I can use it for my final color. Now, the cool strategy about that is instead of the primer typically comes in a white, and then you have to go over it with whatever color they want on top. Well, sometimes it works out really good because they're going to do a white or a light color as their final, and it covers over the primer, no worries. When we're going to go to a darker gray color, it's easier to have a darker primer, or in this case, the exact same color, and that's what I love. It's the same primer and the same top coat color. All I got to do is brush it in, roll it on, boom, we're done. So that is a whole lot of information. And hey, look, we're only on task number 1. So that is what the description is. And we're going to go through 2 or 3 others. My hope is that you're going to hear me talking, you're going to hear us discussing it, so that when you get into that assignment, you can do the same logical thought process and come up with the best accurate estimate for how much time it's going to take, because we're going to have a little competition. Why not, right? We're going to try to figure out who gets the closest to the time that it's going to take me to do it, from your estimate to the actual report that I'm going to show you on our work order. We'll have some fun. There's 12 opportunities individually, so we'll do kind of 12 of the tasks, and then we'll have an overall winner because we're going to add it all up. If you said it takes 2 hours and 45 minutes for task 1, and then you go 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 12, we're going to add them all up, and this project should take X amount of hours. Well, that's the job of the estimator, because that bottom number is what the client wants to know about, because we go total hours times our bill rate equals, that's what we charge, that's what they signed off to pay. That's how it becomes so important for us. Okay, super cool. Let's do this. I'm gonna shuffle through a couple here, and let's go. Edgar, are you out there? Edgar, where you at, Edgar? Talk to me, buddy. Where you at? Anybody know where Edgar's at? Did he? There it is. Jose's whistling at you, Edgar. Where you at? All right, we caught Edgar in the restroom or something. Let's try this. Efren, are you out there? Okay, perfecto. Hey, Ephraim, can you read? Cool. Task number 5. Let's look at that, everybody. So read along with Ephraim here. Excellent. Okay, here's another big one. There's a lot going on there, but let's see if we can decode it so you guys can estimate it properly. So step number 1, remove existing wall mount sink. Okay, pretty straightforward. The old coming out, the new's coming in. And so we've currently done that. If we switch over to this view right here, that's where the sink used to be, right there. You can see the remnants of where we actually pulled it off the wall. There was a metal bracket and 4 screws, or 2 screws, long ones, holding the bracket on the wall. So we've removed it, we've patched the holes, we're getting ready to put our primer on it, and so that task has been accomplished, but this just starts the process for us, okay? Then we want to make sure that we're going to be doing and putting in a new utility sink with cabinet, okay? So literally, dun, da, 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 there's the new fixture right there. So cabinet, sink, faucet's going right there. The client has purchased it, has got it on site, and so that step has been accomplished, which is good. Then it gets into some plumbing, right? We want to make sure we're putting the new faucet on. We're going to do new water supply lines and new drain lines. Now, why that's important for me is I've got to make sure I've purchased the right parts that match up with the stuff the client has purchased, so that when we go to put our water and drain lines in, we don't have to waste time and therefore money going after parts that we didn't get. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Now, Ephraim, what I want to ask you is in parentheses there, it says client provided fixture. Now, do you understand what that means? Yeah, perfect. So I want to keep saying this because I'm using that terminology, and that right there literally is a legal agreement between us as contractors and the client. And anytime that's in the description and the client has signed off on it, boom, I am off the hook. If they don't purchase that and get it to the site, I'm not responsible. So I can't be held liable for, delays in the project, or I bought the wrong one, or it's the wrong color, or it's the wrong size, it's the wrong finish, because man, the client made the decision, they purchased it. My job as the technician is to install it properly to code, get it working, we're good to go. So I use that terminology a lot because literally when I'm reviewing this estimate with the client, I have a highlighter in my hand, and everywhere it says client to provide, client to provide, client to provide. That's the agreement, and they make sure they understand, okay, I got to get the paint, I got to get the sink and the da, I'm going to get the toilet and the da, I'm going to get the light fixtures, I'm going to get the towel bars, I'm going to get the hooks, right? And so they have their purchase list separated from the purchase list that I'm going to have, and that's how we keep the project nice and clean and clear on both sides, so nobody's confused, nobody's going, I thought you were doing it, no, you were going to do it. And that usually doesn't work out well, and it usually burns up a lot of time on the calendar. And when we said we'd have it done in 2 weeks, it's now taken 6 weeks because we didn't know who was purchasing what. I've had it where I've bought stuff and the client has bought stuff. I'm like, no, now I got to return it and get a credit back, or what they bought doesn't fit or work technically with what we're doing. I've had that happen. And so, for example, with plumbing, you could buy the fixture and the drain lines, but the drain line that's actually in this bathroom may be smaller or larger than the pipes and the fittings that you bought. No bueno. I can't finish the job. I got to stop. I got to put my tool belt down, drive down to the depot, pick up parts, bring it back. It's an hour to hour and 15-minute round trip here in a larger metro area if we miss or mess up on one of those things. Now, as an estimator, you should be going, we don't live in a perfect world. Stuff is going to get messed up. And so I may need to put a little extra time into every single task in order to have a little buffer in there in case stuff goes wrong. In fact, here's the little secret that I've learned over the years is I'll estimate accurately on each of the tasks that need to be done. And then before I actually put a total, I put another little box in my spreadsheet that says contingency, which means unknown, what may happen. Okay, I'm going to put another 3 hours, maybe 5 hours in a project that's going to be 2 or 3 weeks long, because I do not want to give an estimate that is too low in the time budget, so that I'm, as the technician, feel like I'm always pressured to make sure I hit that time, and I got to run and rush, and I don't have any time to take a sip of water or talk to the client or whatever, because I'm on a deadline, baby. I got to get this thing done in 2.5 hours, or I'm off budget and my boss is going to be upset, right? So that's the thought process, and then ultimately trying to create an estimate that gives us enough time to really get the job done well. So that's what's cooking there. Let's do one more, you guys, and then I'm going to cut you loose on the assignment. So I'm going to click through, and here we go. So Marley, are you out there? Marley, where you at, girl? I gotcha. Okay, Marley, would you please read number 12? Let's do the last one just to keep it wrapped up. Okay, excellent. So we're going to decode this a little bit because there's some more kind of critical information here. So clean and prep. Okay, so I use a little short version. What do you think prep means? What's the bigger word? There you go. Good. So sometimes I talk like a contractor, like we're talking trade to trade. So clean and prep, prep and dispose of, demo and prep. We have these little short words we use. But if the client doesn't understand the language I've typed in there, sometimes I got to spell it out. Clean and prepare concrete floor. Okay. So that floor right down there, it's in an outside bathroom. It's got 55 years of grime and dirt and dust coming in. So it's going to take some time. We're going to scrape it, we're going to clean it, and then the client wants us to paint the floor. Okay, so that's a whole nother level. So now we need to really use the right products to clean it so that we can actually get paint to stick to the concrete floor. And that's where this next description. So we're going to paint with a quality floor paint product. So when I was writing this, I didn't know what the client was going to put down. I didn't do the research. They said they were doing it, but I needed them to sign off on the contract before we got going, right? So I then said, here's how I'm going to describe it. I want the paint to be a quality floor paint. Let's not buy the cheapy stuff because it's going to drive us crazy and it's not going to last. And then I did a description where it says color/sheen. Okay, so here's some more words. Marley, do you have any idea what the word sheen means regarding paint? Yes, matte, shiny, glossy, eggshell. Dude, perfect. Okay, she knows what she's doing. So there's two different things. When we go to buy paint, you can't just say buy gray paint. No. I'm going to ask you about 100 more questions because there's all kinds of stuff. Okay, so in this case, we're whittling it down in the job description here in task number 12. We want a quality, and I'm going to grab it right down here, quality floor paint. And this is what the client purchased. Okay, so granite grip. Okay, Beard, that's the manufacturer. Premium floor coating. Okay, premium is better than cheap, right? So whenever you see premium, it means this is going to be a little bit higher quality or the highest quality you can get. And then we've got interior or exterior, super good. Our particular floor is interior, but if we had to do outside, good. And then it says decorative slip resistant concrete coating. Aha. I put in non-slip. It's the same thing, slip resistant, non-slip texture. Because what we wanted in this space, I'm going to tilt down here a little bit, is you can see where the outside door comes in. And so we're going to have buckets of water and we're planting and we got mud on our boots. We don't want that floor to get slippery, so it becomes a fall hazard. So it needs to have a little grip. Okay, so that was super important that we had the right kind of product. Now the good news is that little swatch right here is what I painted 2 days ago now. And so we wanted to test this product, and now it's dry. I can totally feel the texture and the grip in there. And I think that's going to be a really nice product. And we wanted to see what the color kind of looked like too, to make sure the floor, the wall color, and the trim color all work together. The good news is Mrs. Williams is a fellow PracTacular home designer type person like I am and my wife. And so she really knows what's going on. We're always talking about color and sheen and texture and finish and all this cool stuff because I'm the finish person as well. And so if I've got all the information and I know where we're going, the project goes so much smoother. Everything falls into place. We get a beautiful job. Everybody's happy. We get our paycheck life is super good. So that's what it is. It's the medium gray is the color slash, and then the sheen in this case is a flat with this non-slip texture. So we didn't want it shiny or glossy because that, right, slippery. And what they actually do is they add a little bit of sand to the paint product, which gives it a little bit of grip. Super good, non-slip. Okay, so here we go, you guys. Your job right now is to open up your Google Classroom. It's going to look something like this. And we're going to get ready to give you some time here in class to go through all 12 of these tasks, thinking through what the description says, adding up in your head, or if you need to use a little notepad, definitely do it and figure out what you think the best time budget is for each one of these items. You can see in the instructions there, I want us to use decibels. And I'm going to say this again. We're going to use decimals to represent how much time you think it's going to take. Because what you're going to see is the time estimates are going to flow back into our chart, and they're going to do basically an auto addition, and it's going to add up and give us our totals. So I need you to use no smaller increment than 15 minutes. So if you say it's going to take an hour and 15 minutes, it's going to be 1.25. 1.25. And that's all you have to type into your answers in your Google Classroom, okay? Don't put the word hours after it. Don't put an HR period after it. Just give us the number, baby. This is part 2, so I don't need to know anything else other than your estimated hours, all right? If you think it's gonna take 30 minutes, that's a 0.5, okay? If you think it's 45 minutes, it's a 0.75. So you're getting the crew here, decimals to time. When it all comes together, it makes it so much easier to add things up. And when you go through and we do job costing and how much you're going to get paid, this is where it really becomes important for you guys as skilled trade professionals to chart your time accurately. Because if you don't, I'm not going to be able to pay you accurately. So here's why I'm trying to put a little big fat Y behind. We're using decimals and we're tracking everything because it's our responsibility as the technician in the field to report back to the office or the owner exactly how much, okay? So you're describing, reading the description, calculating how much time you think it is, key it in decibels, and then submit it, okay? Turn it in. So any questions on that, you guys? Beautiful. I'm not hearing anybody, so go to work. I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone and go to work on some things in our space. And you guys unmute and let me know, hey, I've got it done, Mr. V, and then we'll move on. All right. Good luck. Go to work, estimators. All right. So that takes care of part number 2 in the estimator side of things. So I look forward to seeing what your numbers are. I'll be transferring all those numbers into a spreadsheet, keeping track of time as we go. And that is actually what we're going to talk about next here. So part 2, I want to just go over what the work order looks like for a technician like me I'm actually out in the field working. So what you're seeing on the screen is a couple of close-up shots of this actual document. I've got my pencil here ready to go. I've already started documenting my time. And so let me show you how that works and why that's so important. And then I've got a couple of questions there in the red to see if somebody has got this and paying attention, okay? So first thing, everybody, if you're looking at the screen, you can see the first insert section there. It says job site work order and time tracking sheet. Okay, so this is kind of a 2-in-1 form. It's going to give us all the descriptions that you just saw in your assignment and that are on the contract and that are in the estimate that the client signed off on and I signed off on. That's now the go-to for the whole project, okay? But we're also going to add some columns and we're going to be tracking the time so that we know if our estimate was accurate or if we are over or under the time that we allowed for each of these tasks, okay? So we got the project name in there again. You got the 2101 Williams, so that's the the year and estimate number one. Williams is the client, and then who's doing the work. So I'm going to be the home improvement technician that's assigned to this work order, and it started on the 12th. So the next box down, you can see start date and end date. Super important. Now, if we would have promised the client, by the way, that this is going to be done by January 24th, which, oh, by the way, it needs to be because I'm going to be leaving Medford and coming back to Mammoth, then there would be an end date. And now, all of a sudden, as the technician on site, going, okay, not only do I have all this stuff that needs to get done, it needs to be done because we promised the client that it would be done by the 24th, okay, for example. So that's what that's all about. And last but not least, let's look at these 4 columns across the bottom. And Raul, are you out there? Perfect. Okay. Help me teach this next segment and see if it all makes sense to you guys. Okay. So the first column there on the left, it says estimated time budget. What the heck is a time budget? Yeah, right. You've heard of like a money budget, right? Okay, cool. So for example, at home, we've got a budget for groceries, right? We got to know how much we spend on groceries at, Vons or Gross Out or whatever. And so we can't spend more than that because I only have so much money and we got to stay on budget. If I come in and I spend less money at the grocery store, is that a good thing, Raul? Okay, good. If we spend more, what could happen to us if we spend more money on groceries or something? Yeah, and that means either, oh, we got to cut back on another budget, like, I don't know, gas for the car or something, because we only make a certain amount of money each month. And if we go under, we're golden. We can have some flexibility and we have some margin. If we go over, we have to adjust our budget so that we have enough money at the end of the month to take care of everything we need to do for life. So I want you to think of the time budget the same as your dollar budget, because in reality, the time is linked to the dollars, by the way. In the trades or any paid service, man, you've heard the term time is money. It's absolutely true. That 1.25 hours is going to be multiplied by how much the hourly bill rate is for whatever I'm doing. So it can range from $45 up to $74 per hour, depending on what I'm doing. And therefore, time is money, baby. If I work the project properly and I can keep everything within a 15 or 30-minute window, that's my goal, okay? So now what happens is next column says time spent, okay? So time spent. Once more, Raul, what do you think I'm trying to tell you in regards to time spent? Yeah, and in this case, it's by the task, because each one of these things, baby, has its own budget, right? And its own time tracker. So line by line, I'm going to be adding things together. So if you're looking at the blue text there, you can see it says 0.75 plus 0.25 plus 0.5. Let's see if we do this right. Question is, how much time have I spent on that one task, Raul? Can you add that up in your head? Are you adding it up, Raul? Yeah, so I'm glad you said that. So try not to think of it as minutes, just add up the math. Like if you put it in your calculator, you go 0.75 plus 0.25 equals what? 1, right? Is that making sense? Do you see that, Raul? Okay, cool. So 1 plus 0.5 equals 1.5 hours. So that's what would go in the total time column. And then here's the kicker. I need to know as I'm going through the project, am I over or am I under budget? So I can tell my owner or the client that we've got some problems or that we're right on. Yes, who said something? Okay. Thanks so much, Del Toro. I hear you, man. If not, we'll see you tomorrow and we'll keep on the conversation, okay? All right, so here's the last question for you, Raul, and see if it makes sense. So if I've spent 1.5 hours and the budget was 1.25, am I over or under the budget? Good, 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 good. So here's how I would record it, in the field. I would put the total time, 1.5. I would subtract that from the budgeted time estimate. And in this case, I'm putting a plus 0.25. So that means I am over budget by 15 minutes. Okay, well, 15 minutes, okay. If that said 1.25, now we've got something to be concerned with, right? I'm an hour and 15 minutes over the budget and I'm only on task number one. Okay, this is where this document and this process of thinking everything through really helps us to be a profitable, sustainable, trade professional and not lose money or not overcharge our clients and lose jobs. It's all this huge balancing act, and it all comes down to this right here. Trying to estimate as accurately as you can and then keeping track so we know as the project is going, not just at the end, okay? Really bad day. If I was out here in the field, I filled out my whole time log sheet, I turned it back in the owner, and I was over 3.5 hours total. Who's going to pay for the 3.5 hours? Okay, 3.5 hours times $75 an hour. We're in the $200, $250 thing. Am I going to take it out of your paycheck? No, I can't do that legally. So what happens to me as the owner is I either have to A, go back to the client and ask them for more money with a change order, or B, just eat it. In other words, I'm going to take a loss on the profitability of this project because I don't want to upset my client, but I am going to go back and retrain the technician to let me know if they are over budget on the time sometime in the first day or so, right? So you can kind of see how if I was managing projects, whether it's a construction project or it is a software development project or it's a farm or agricultural planting project, any of these other related career paths, what we're learning today can be used in that critical thinking, understanding the process of clear descriptions, tracking the time, and communicating well with client owners. That's what we're all about here. That's what we're trying to learn and teach. Okay, so that is the ball game in regards to our work orders. We're going to get into a little bit. We're about 10 minutes out, and so I'm making some decisions in my head here. The two tasks that are at the top end, we're doing the preparation, prime, and paint. So right now, as you saw, I'm starting to wipe down and clean the ceilings and the walls. I've done the patching on the majority of the holes, cracks, and divots that are in the wall. What I do need to do is remove the wood door casing and the wood baseboard that's along this wall before we actually start preparing to paint. And so that is actually step number 2 or task number 2, remove existing door trim and then get ready to cut and paint and install the new 1x3. Okay. So I think for the time's sake, I'm going to cut our classroom off at this point. I'm going to get you guys checked out of class, and then I'm going to keep working so that we can move things forward. I've also arranged with our client to go down to Home Depot and pick up the balance of the bigger tools and materials. The cool news is here, Dr. Williams is a veteran, and he's a Navy guy. He was a Navy doc, and so he gets another 25% off, I think it is, or 15% off at Home Depot. So what's cool is when they say they're going to buy it, I go with them, help them shop, pick up the materials, they run their purchase information through, and they save 15%. So we're going to go do that. I like that a lot. So stay tuned, everybody. Hang with me. I'm going to go ahead and jump into Google Classroom, and we'll get you guys checked out and having a good day.